There we go. So, how's it going, everybody? Today, the first person that we have today on the list, and I have to have, there are so many people I need to have the agenda in front of me because or else I'll call Ernie, Josh, and Nico, Amy, and it's going to be a big mess. So, we have Ernie Jacobs from, I believe, Buffalo. And he's going to be hanging out with us and talking to us a little bit about Siril. And we have Pete Myers with us from Woodland Hills. And we're both going to be hanging out and listen to Ernie talk a little bit about giving us a Siril overview. How are you doing, Ernie?
I'm doing great. We don't have 6 feet of snow on the ground anymore, so life's pretty good.
Well, it's funny you say that because, you know, Pete Proul, who has been on the show before, who lives in the Buffalo area as well, he lives a little bit north of Buffalo, and he got almost no snow.
Right. Those storms are very localized. Pete actually is a former president of the Buffalo Astronomical Association, so he's quite familiar with. Plus, he does, Masters of Pixinsight.
Absolutely. So, Ernie, I know you got some presentation for us, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you do and what you're going to be talking to us today about.
All right. Well, actually, I did it. That's one of the slides I have in my presentation, but we can skip over that when we get there.
No, you can start the presentation. That's fine.
Sure.
You want to do that?
Sure.
All right. Cool.
So let me share the correct screen, and let me start my presentation. Okay. So everybody should be seeing the Siril overview slide. So welcome everyone. Put together this presentation. I'm going to try to not make this death by PowerPoint. So there'll be a few slides up front here, just to kind of prep everybody. And the lion's share of the presentation is going to be the live demo. So hopefully you can interact with the chat, even though I won't actually be able to see it while I'm doing my presentation here. The other people on the show should hopefully be able to get any questions to me, as well as if we can't get to them in my time, we'll respond on the website later. And then, so hold on, I gotta hide this a little. So before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you to all the content creators that are out there. It is an amazing thing in this hobby how people share their experiences and their learnings, their successes, their failures. And as someone who's personally benefited from that, I just want to say thank you, not just to the people on the show, but all the YouTubers, bloggers, whatever your content is, Masters of Pixinsight, etc. It's definitely something that makes this hobby accessible to so many people. So thank you.
Just Ernie, 1 second. You got to swap. You got the next slide. I think you're swapping. You need the presentation mode.
There you go. Do you see that?
I see the next slide as well. I think you're on the presenter window.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right. So that was the thank you. So who am I? So to get to Dan's question, I'm one of you, typically out there in the chat, so it feels a little bit weird to be out here. Husband and father, long interest in science, been a visual astronomer for more years than I'm going to admit on this platform. But I'm new to astrophotography. I got my first DSLR in 2018. I started with a Dob, started taking pictures with my smartphone, joined the Buffalo Astronomical Association, and then moved up to a DSLR on a tripod, and then I got my refractor and my mount in 2020. I'm a board member and outreach coordinator for the Buffalo Astronomical Association, very active in outreach. And for those of you out there, if you haven't partaken in outreach events in your area, I highly recommend it. It's a very rewarding. I think you get way more out of it than what you put into it. And you can also consider, joining your local astronomy club. I'm also the astronomy program lead for Penn-Dixie Fossil Park. So some of you may know me, may be asking a question. Wait a minute. Don't you use Pixinsight? Well, yes, I do use Pixinsight. I switched about a year ago. So why am I doing something on Siril? Well, I used Siril for about a year. I found it improved my processing, and I found it was a good preparation for using Pixinsight. And if my understanding of what this community that Dan's created here is about, not all of us are in the same place in this journey. And I think that there's others, that are maybe just getting started, or other factors I'll get into later, where Siril may be a really good option for right now where they are. So I'm not going to be trying to convince anybody to stop using Pixinsight. But I think this is the second best option, and I think this could be really useful to a lot of people. So this is going to be a high-level overview. We're going to highlight some key features. I'm going to bring up the interface. I'm going to show some of them, but this isn't going to be a full tutorial. You're not probably going to be able to watch this presentation and from soup to nuts process an image, but you'll have an idea of where to get started and where to find some more information. So, as I alluded to, who is the Siril program for? Maybe you're new to the hobby. Maybe you're looking for some pre and post processing options. Maybe use a Mac or Linux, something other than Windows. Now, I got an asterisk by the Mac. If you use a Mac, you need to look into it. Recently there was a bug with the latest OS for Mac, Ventura. And so the folks in Siril were recommending not upgrading to Ventura. But I believe that has been fixed. But this is, if you have a Mac and you're interested in exploring it, this, it's definitely something you should look into further. Maybe you're not ready for Pixinsight yet. Perhaps you're a little intimidated by all the long words for all the processes like local histogram equalization and whatnot. Maybe you're not ready to make the financial commitment. And maybe your computer's not ready for Pixinsight. It's pretty resource intensive, and Siril isn't as resource intensive. And I know, speaking from my perspective, I come into this hobby as a visual astronomer, no background in photography. So I have no Photoshop background to build on. And the dedicated astrophotography features in Siril were of great benefit to me. The other thing is, this is open source, free and open source software. And that's an important thing to some people. So that's something that might be a tick in the box for using this. Maybe some of you just like to have backup options. You're getting weird results out of WBPP and Pixinsight or whatever you're using, and you want to put that data into something else and just see, is it your data, or do you just have the wrong checkbox ticked in WBPP? So some basics. As I said, Siril is free and open source. If you're someone that is into coding, you can even make contributions to the software. It's relatively new and it's rapidly developing. It's specifically intended for amateur astronomers, specifically for deep sky and deep sky lucky imaging. It performs calibration, stacking, post-processing, and imaging analysis. And it can be used for astrometry. So you can even do some exoplanet stuff with it if you have the data. Their website is here, Siril.org. We'll bring that up a little bit later in the presentation. But let's take a little bit deeper look into the software and to the features before we open up the interface. So from key features, as I said, there's pre-processing, post-processing, and image analysis. It does all the things you would expect in pre-processing: calibration, registration, and stacking. And you can perform these functions either manually or using scripts. I have only ever used the scripts because I'm incredibly lazy. And I also figure the person that wrote this program probably knows a heck of a lot more about pre-processing than I will in 10 lifetimes. So I just go with the script, even though they warn you otherwise. And it has some interesting features. One of them is that you can remove some gradient. You can do some background extraction on individual frames before you even stack them, which depending on the quality of your data, may be something that you find useful. Under post-processing, those of you that use Pixinsight are going to find some of these names really familiar. In my opinion, this software is second only to Pixinsight. It's very, very feature rich. I think it's lacking in a couple of areas, and I hate to use the word lacking. That's a relevant statement. Pixinsight is so powerful that it's just this is very feature rich software. Background extraction, color calibration, deconvolution, multiple stretching options. You can combine, do your RGB composting to get like Hubble palette, for example, pixel math, and a lot more. And as I said, image analysis, plate solving, dynamic PSF, performs tilt analysis, and providing a ton of other information, including, Fitz header viewer, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to end the slideshow, and I'm going to bring up Siril. So when you open up the program, this is the screen that you're going to be presented with. So hopefully everybody is seeing Siril, if I did this correctly.
Yep.
And this main window here is where your image is going to be displayed. And you'll notice that automatically right off the bat, if you present it a debarred image, you're going to get red, green. It's going to separate the channels, and it's also going to provide you a full color view. You have some menus and controls over the top. We'll go over that in a little bit. There's a console area, and there's some more controls and information down here on the bottom. So one of the key aspects of this interface, and I'm going to bring up my a directory here that I created on my desktop, is setting the home directory. So ahead of time, you'll notice that I created a directory here, and since I use this with scripts, I have specifically named folders in here. So ahead of time, you're going to want to populate these folders with the corresponding frames, and you need to use these names. And if you do that, you click on this little house icon here, and it's going to open up an explore dialog type box, and you're going to be able to select, you follow the menus, and in this case, you can see on my desktop, the Siril directory is selected. I'm going to click home. So now if I wanted to open an image, for instance, it's going to take me directly there. But the important part is if I want to run a script, like for instance, the one-shot single color pre-processing script, I would be able to select that, and it would, all I had literally do is I would click on this button, I'd click through this warning, which I talked a little bit about before, and I'd go ahead and run the script. But we're not going to do that because I've already put some process stuff, kind of like the cooking show type scheme, so that we don't have to waste a lot of time. So if you just want to open and view frames, again, you can click open and you can navigate to wherever you have your pictures. And let's go ahead and change the home directory to where I have the processed images. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to click on my desktop, and I'm going to click on my Siril processed directory. And you'll see there's a new folder in here called process. That contains some of the intermediate files that Siril creates. And then the important file is this result fit file, which will be your processing result. So we'll go ahead and just open that. And it's, as you can see, we've got a linear image that's very dark. But similar to Pixinsight, you have multiple ways of stretching that image. Okay, so you can do an arc sign, or you can do an auto stretch. And of course, if you're familiar with doing this in Pixinsight, And this is one area where it's not as powerful as Pixinsight. You can't unlink the stretch at this point. You have to go through background extraction, and color calibration to give yourself, an image without all this green. Because as you know, as some of you know, with color cameras, this result is very typical. Is the fact that there's two green photo sites for every red and blue with typical Bayer pattern on a color sensor. But you can also take a look at the individual frames. Most of the operations you have to perform in one of these channels. It doesn't matter which one you pick, but you need to perform the RGB is really only provided for visualization. So we have some other controls and some information here. You can save the image. You can switch between 32-bit and 16-bit. You can save the image, for instance. The workflow that I used is I actually most of the time stacked my stuff in DSS because that's where I got started. Use this for some of the imaging processing functions, and then saved my the result as a 16-bit TIFF to finish off in Photoshop. You got this hamburger here, and this is where you can pick up some image information, preferences, updates, all that kind of usual stuff. So as I mentioned, you have this console area, so you can make this bigger. You can make it disappear, so you can see your image larger. And this is an area where, quite honestly, these pre-processing tabs are things that I typically haven't used very much. I typically use a script, but if you wanted to manually do it, or if you wanted to modify the script and stop it at a certain point and like manually deselect images or whatever, you could certainly go forward with this. But first things first, it converts the file. It starts to create these things it calls sequences. It performs. It makes your pre-processing with your master bias, master dark, master flat. Performs image registration. There's a graphics tab. So if we loaded all the lights in here, you would be able to see and sort by like FWHM or other characteristics, roundness, so on and so forth. And then you would be able to perform stacking with adjusting some parameters. Usually, I just keep the console open. I run the script, and then when I'm running the pre-processing stuff, I can keep track of things that are going on here. So we are going to actually do a couple of things to this image. But I guess before I do that, let me talk about some of the things on the bottom. There are, like I said, there's the auto stretch characteristics. You can invert the image. You can switch them back and forth. If you've plate solved it, you can display the world coordinate system information for it, and it's going to show you the objects. You can also do a search for objects in your image. You can also show the world coordinate grid system if you want. You can switch to the point spread function photometry mode. You can have various zoom controls here, rotation, mirror, flip. You can open up the histogram toolbox, and you can also show that plot screen that I was showing before. If you, for instance, have all your individual frames selected. But for me, where I came to this is I was not comfortable with Photoshop, and I often didn't know if what I was getting out of my images was all I could get out of my images, or if it was just my lack of skill with Photoshop. And having the ability to perform the auto stretch and perform some of these post-processing functions for me was a game changer in making sure I was getting all out of my images that I could. So as you can see, there are a lot of features. We're not going to go through all of them today. But you can see there's the multiple intensity transformation features, color calibration. There's color calibration and photometric color calibration. This remove green noise is just like a CNR. You've got background extraction, RGB composting, pixel math, just a whole lot of really, really useful features. So, like, why don't we take a look at background extraction, and we'll bring that up. We're going to switch to one of our other channels, color channels, and I just accidentally put that to the wrong screen here. So similar to Pixinsight, maybe a little bit less controls. From my perspective, I really just kind of reduce the number of sample points and reduce the sigma value, which increases the tolerance on picking the points. It generates the boxes. I don't think there's a control, or at least one that I'm aware of, for changing the sides of the boxes, but you can add boxes with a left click, and you can delete boxes with a right click. So you can find areas around your nebulosity, that you might want to try to get rid of some stuff, and then you can go ahead and compute the background. And I'll turn the console on, and then you can go ahead and apply. And, already you can talk, and this is old data, this is not very good data, but I just brought this up just for showing. Already, you can see the makings of, starting to look like a more normal image. We could also go through color calibration, but this is still a linear image. So, we could go through and pick any one of these, intensity transformation functions that strikes your fancy. The generalized hyperbolics, a little bit new for me, something that I've never toyed with. I messed around with ArcSine a little bit, and it kind of did funky things to the cores of my stars. So that's either my technique or I just something I stayed away with it. In general, just kind of stuck with intensity transformation. Again, if you use Pixinsight, this probably looks pretty familiar. Yep. You can, work these sliders, and you'll see a real-time preview of what's going on, or you can hit the auto stretch button and you can take the image non-linear. And as I said, you can then take this, click the save icon. Oh, sorry, the save as icon. And you could then take this and change to a TIFF. Let's give it a new file name. And save. And you can choose 16. If you're bringing it into Photoshop, you can choose 16-bit. Click save, and go on with your presentation. So hopefully this gives you guys a little bit of exposure here. I am going to go back to the presentation for a quick second here. Oh, no. Okay, so we'll swap the view again. So hopefully, I see one thing I didn't cover. It's a good thing I took a look at this. You can perform tilt analysis. So when I get done with this, we'll open that up and I can show you, but this is just another free tool that you can use to examine your images for roundness issues, tilt, so on and so forth, which would be quite useful. But if you're looking for more information, Siril.org has some pretty good tutorials. If we open up that website, You can see there's actually a tutorial section. They have their own YouTube channel, and there are many YouTube content creators that that demonstrate how to use a lot of these functions. And just as a note, I learned about this software from watching one of Nico's videos. So like I said, you know, I've learned so much from Visible Dark, from Nico, from Amy Little, Adam Block, so many names. Plus some folks that aren't on here. AZ Forerunner, Hogarth, and many others that are out there. So as you know, there's a ton of information. So before we go back to the program, see if there's any questions. There's one last thing. The most important takeaway from this presentation: go Bills. I am from Buffalo, and in Buffalo, this is the most important thing, and tomorrow is a super important game. So I go for Bills. No, seriously, the most important takeaway is I think this software, is second only to Pixinsight. And I think this could be a really useful option for everyone. So, I'm going to end here. I'll bring up Siril, and if there's any questions, we'll try to tackle them. If not, we'll definitely can respond later with stuff on the website. So I don't know.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Ernie. That's I didn't know a lot about Siril, to be honest with you, before we started, and it's actually quite a powerful program. And if you just want to hit the screen share button, you could get back on your. There you go. Cool. And actually, somebody was asking a question regarding if you have a program that can get rid of the clouds in Chicagoland. So
I would be. Listen, we live on the eastern shore of Lake Erie, which is at the complete end of all of the Great Lakes. If I could get rid of clouds, I would have more hair, and I would be a wealthy man. So,
wouldn't we all? And we would all love you so much, because you know what? New York is one of the worst places to image, because, not to mention the light pollution, but for those of you that watch the show with my lovely telephone wires that I got to compete with, but the clouds are just horrible.
Yeah, and just with Lake Erie, a few miles to our west, if we get 60 clear nights, and of course those clear nights not lining up with work obligation or family obligation, it's just it's a great place to live and raise a family. It's a horrible place to be an amateur astronomer. So
I could imagine. It's. I drove through Buffalo, and I totally, I would have stopped by to say hi to you too. But when I was driving up there, and I met up with Pete Proul, I met up with some other members up there. I met up with Ron Breacher and Shawn Nielsen, and it was pretty cool.
So Pete and I have been supposed to be getting together for a cup of coffee for like a couple of years now. So, and we live less than an hour from each other. So.
That's awesome. It's amazing. It's amazing. I like the same thing. Like, my dad, when he moved to New York, he's like, Dad, you ever been to the Statue of Liberty? He's like, no. I said, Dad, you live in the Bronx. I said, you never been to Statue? You've been living here for 40 years, and you never been to the Statue of Liberty. So we went.
It's funny, not to go off the rails, but it's funny you mentioned that. I came to Buffalo via UB. I grew up closer to New York City, and what I used to think was upstate New York. And I've been here for 30-something years, and I was here for a good number of years, and I had a friend from Germany visit, and I never did the Maiden Mist. I'm like, oh, that's a tourist trap. Don't waste your money. And my friend from Germany is like, I didn't fly across the Atlantic Ocean not to do the Maiden Mist. And I'm gonna tell you what, I don't know who enjoyed it more. I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, my wife and I did. It wasn't me or the mist. It was something else on the falls. It was about went into the horseshoe. It was the other one. There was like a couple of them.
Yeah, there's a journey behind the falls and all that stuff.
Yeah, we went in there, and let me tell you, I I don't like getting wet. I just don't like getting wet, and it was a bad thing to do because I had my camera out and everything. I got my nice camera, and I'm trying to cover it with the poncho, trying to get it, but yeah, no, it's a great thing. But thank you everybody. Visible Dark, Amy, thank you. I did a little poll while you were talking on if you would consider using Siril or currently use Siril, and 61% said yes, I would consider using Siril, or I currently use Siril. So
Awesome.
pretty cool. 72 votes. 60, almost 70% said 60% said that they would consider using it. So we'll end that poll. So that's awesome. A really good number.
Yeah. Like I said, and actually Nico did a pretty good video comparing a lot of the image processing options, and I may not agree with all the rankings exactly, but this he and I both agree. I think this one's a very close second to Pixinsight.
So. Yeah, and it's free, right?
It's free. It's open source. After using Nina, I was always kind of scared of that. But after using Nina, I actually used Nina first, and quite honestly, that opened my mind to this possibility.
Open your mind.
Yeah. As if looking at the universe doesn't open your mind enough, right?
I digress. I sometimes, for those of you that know the show, I sometimes quote movies and try and do stuff, but you're gonna have to deal with that for the next 7.5 hours. But Pete, what do you think?
Oh, great presentation, Ernie, and the fact that we get a chance to finally see you face to face. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and hopefully I didn't talk too fast. I know I'm on my third pot of coffee for the day, so
there you go.
Probably a little bit more wired than a 1980 stock person, Wall Street person.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. and for those of you that are asking, I am drinking water. So I mean,
I have one question. I'm going to present this to the viewer membership. We have 148 people watching. Yep. Absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Dan's mic is really low. Okay, I could raise my gain up a little bit for you. And I can move a little closer to the mic. And we could do that. There we go. Hold on a second. We'll just go into my settings a little bit and raise the device volume a little bit. There we go. How's that? Is that better? There you go. All right. Yeah, only 67 likes. Only half of you have hit the like button. So please, thumbs up us, please, if you're there, if you like what we're doing, if you like Ernie, and then, I don't even care if you like me or not, you probably hate me. At least the speakers are here, and that's what it's all about. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And definitely hit up Ernie's AstroBin page at Astro716. He's got some really good images on there. And you can see some of the stuff that he uses and look at the descriptions and see where he uses Siril and all that. So everyone hit that thumbs up button. Yes, let's get that to 100. We're at 90 now. All right, let's go. So thank you. So what do you got? So we do have we do have giveaways that we're given in between guests. So if you wanna stick around and see. Let's see. We're gonna do a giveaway right now. We're gonna do 2 giveaways. We're gonna be and just some ground rules with giveaways. Once you win, I'm gonna remove you off the wheel. So not more people can win more than once. So that's the only thing that's fair. And I did put a schedule out. So right now we are going to be doing 50% off for Masters of Pixinsight classes. So you should have. So the wheel is closed, Chris, I believe you're on it. There was 300 and change people on there. So, Ernie, hey, listen, thank you so much for the presentation, man. You did awesome. Stick around and watch the wheel, though. And let's see. Let me see if I could do my screen share here. And you're going to see this because this is going to be a mess when you see this. So this is the AstroWorld wheel. You can't even see the names anymore. You can't see anything. There is 346 people on this wheel.
Oh, man.
And I got to get my pen and my paper out because we're giving away so much stuff today that I need to write this stuff down so I don't forget anybody. So the first one is for the 50% off Masters of Pixinsight class. So here we go. Number 1. First winner of the day. Dean Krogman. And everybody, if you win anything, you will get an email from me. So you'll get an email from me and a response, and we'll take care of you. So here you go. So Dean Krogman, first winner of the day. Second winner is Michael Keith. He is an AstroWorld watcher. Michael Keith. And there we go. So those are the 2 winners for the first round of many of giveaways for today, and we're going to be doing them. Watch the agenda, because the agenda is what's going on and where we're going and how many things we're giving away. And there's going to be some stuff that's in there that's not there. So and you know what?
Dan?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt here, but
Nope.
I've got to leave for my hockey game. So everybody, I'll see everybody on Wednesday night, but I'll tune in later on if I can when I get back. But ciao, everybody.
Not a problem. And let's go back to the live stream here, and there we go. Awesome. Dan, you need a drum roll. Usually I'll do one of these. How about that? Because I don't have a drum roll. So Pete may or may be back, but he has in the playoffs for his hockey team, so he has to go play hockey. And it's amazing. I'm 51 and I don't play hockey, and I don't know how old Pete is, but I'm afraid I'll break a hip. But but that being said, Ernie, thank you so much for your presentation on Siril. Thank you for your knowledge and understanding. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. See you later. Clear skies.
All right.